It's Friday, February 21. In the headlines, the Planning Institute of Jamaica is closely watching the United States policies and their impact on Jamaica's economy. Big plans for Pedro Plains irrigation scheme. Plus, parents, we have some tips on supporting your child through bullying. In business news, DIGI to cut staff across the Caribbean. Regionally, Dominica's Prime Minister says LIAT must be reinstated for the good of the region. And in sports, the gun goes off for this year's staging of the Gibson McCook Relays this Saturday at the National Stadium. This is the Weekend News on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, is closely tracking policy shifts in the United States and their potential impact on Jamaica's economy. While the full effects are still unfolding, areas like trade, foreign aid, and immigration could see significant changes. More in this report from Danita Rodney.
Speaking at the PIOJ's quarterly press briefing, Director General Dr. Wayne Henry outlined concerns about potential tariffs on Jamaican exports.
We can agree that it is too early to determine impact, as the precise nature and magnitude of these changes are still being announced and rolled out. However, these new U.S. policies may have a significant impact on Jamaica, particularly in areas such as trade, foreign aid, and immigration. With respect to trade, the United States is Jamaica's largest trading partner, and changes in U.S. trade policies can directly affect the Jamaican economy.
Another key concern is the 90-day pause on all U.S. foreign aid, which took effect on January 20.
With respect to foreign aid and assistance, the United States foreign aid programs play a role in supporting Jamaica's development efforts. Effective January 20, 2025, the U.S. instituted a 90-day pause on all foreign aid, pending a review, following the issuance of an executive order. This has impacted the implementation of programs in Jamaica, supported by U.S. foreign development assistance.
Dr. Henry says changes in U.S. immigration policies may also limit opportunities for Jamaicans to work, study, or live abroad.
With respect to immigration policies, changes in U.S. immigration policies will impact Jamaican citizens, especially those seeking to work, study, or live in the United States. Tighter immigration controls can reduce opportunities for Jamaicans. With regard to climate and health policies, the U.S.'s withdrawal from international climate and health bodies and/or agreements, as in the Paris Agreement and the WHO, the World Health Organization, may affect global initiatives that Jamaica participates in, potentially impacting environmental and health-related projects.
The PIOJ Director General warns that new policies could impact household employment and Jamaica's economic stability.
And finally, with respect to economic impact, policies of the new U.S. administration may have a direct impact on Jamaica's economy. For example, policies that influence household employment, incomes, and overall economic stability may affect the flow of remittances from the United States.
The Planning Institute says it will continue monitoring these developments to assess their long-term effects on Jamaica's economy. Reporting for the news on PBCJ, I am Danita Rodney.
More than 200 applications have been approved under the National Housing Trust Smart Energy Loan Facility. Under the facility, homeowners can access up to $1.5 million to install energy-saving equipment like solar panels, water heaters and installations, and batteries, among other renewable energy solutions. Information Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon wants more people to access the facility.
For those of you who have not accessed it and you are a mortgager with the NHT, please do so. In just 6 months, we had 275 loans that were approved, and that's a very big deal.
Senator Morris-Dixon was speaking at this week's post-cabinet press briefing at Jamaica House. Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, Floyd Green, says he's excited about plans to break ground for the Pedro Plains irrigation scheme. The government is to spend at least $200 million on the project. Minister Green shared some details during this week's post-cabinet press brief at Jamaica House.
That will be our biggest irrigation scheme ever. We do have some allocations in this year's budget. I think over $1.3 billion in that regard to start that work. And we do plan to break ground, hopefully by mid-year.
Minister Green says that will bring water from the Black River to the plains of Pedro.
Most productive areas, especially parts of Flagaman, Greenfield, all the way up to Top Hill, 3,000 hectares. That will completely transform our agricultural production.
He's also looking forward to the allocation for agricultural wardens.
We have about $377 million for agricultural wardens. This will strengthen our fight against perennial larceny. Again, this was envisioned from the 1980s, never really got it off the ground. We're getting it off the ground this year. We've already done recruitment and we're ready to start in that regard.
Bullying can take a serious toll on a child's well-being, but parents play a key role in offering support. In this JIS feature, we explore practical steps to help your child navigate bullying and find the right support systems.
Bullying is driven by a desire to intimidate, and although it is wrong in any context, it remains a pervasive issue. So, what can you do as a parent? First, understand that you cannot control the actions of others, particularly within a school setting. What you can do is prepare children for the unexpected and equip yourself with the tools to support them if they become victims of bullying. Mr. David Samuels, who faced this challenge firsthand, shares his journey of supporting a child through bullying. If your children come to you and say they are being bullied, let them share their experience without judgment. It's important to acknowledge their emotions and reassure them that they are not alone.
When he was about 5 years old, and he spoke about the fact of what other student was saying about him, and I guess he felt the impact of what they were saying. So he came home to share what was happening to him.
No matter what you hear, stay composed and remind your child that bullying does not define who they are.
My first reaction, from my understanding in terms of how the world is, that there are good people, there are bad people, people have their own weaknesses, including children have their own weaknesses, and some of these things are played out within the context of a school setting. So I didn't get hysterical, but to assure him of who he was and is, and that people may say something, but he doesn't have to take it personal, right? Because there's provision for him in terms of his home setting.
Create an environment where they can openly talk about school, their emotions, and what they are going through.
Because he's weaker on his right side, right? And so he tends not to use the hand very much. And so they'll pass remarks like, like one-handed or, kind of thing. And so, when he comes home and, share things like that, we assured him that he's special.
Help your child understand that bullying may stem from others' insecurities or weaknesses. Encourage them to rise above negativity.
What happened is that sometimes when they see him, they do not understand his talents and potential. Right? And then when they see how well he does things, then they, get jealous or, pass remarks about that. So on both sides, he gets it. When he's like at school, he can sometimes get very quiet, and things that he could do, he probably don't do it because, of course, he doesn't sometimes know how people would react or the other students would react.
If bullying persists, speak to school officials and, if necessary, explore options like changing schools.
No, we have moved him a couple of times because we found out that one or two of the schools, it wasn't working out because I don't know if there's, and I don't think he was the only person, but there were others in both schools. They never cater for that kind of thing to help the students that are being looked down on or are being bullied, so to speak. The moment we did that, he did better, especially now where he is at.
Focus on your child's strengths, talents, and passions.
I think the role of the parents is very important. And I'm not putting down counselors because you have to remember that that child spends most of the time with you, and in these early years of their life, they're with you. And so you have to position yourself to encourage, to affirm, to highlight the child's giftings and talents, what they bring to the table, highlight the good things about them and not the negative things.
By following these steps, listening, staying calm, creating a space for open communication, teaching resilience, getting involved and promoting confidence, you can help your child navigate the challenges of bullying. Remember, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can.
In the business report, due to excess demand, the board of directors of Mayberry Investments Limited has decided to exercise its option to upsize its 24-month $2.3 billion tranche 3 bond offer, which opened on January 31 and is scheduled to close on February 28. Mayberry is making an additional 1.15 billion Jamaican dollars. The 10.25% per annum secured bonds due 2027 available for subscription, bringing the upsized offer to 3.45 billion. The investment and brokerage house is advising that while the invitation is scheduled for closure on February 28, it reserves the close right to close early. The minimum offer is 20,000 Jamaican dollars with increments in multiples of 10,000 Jamaican dollars. Digicel, the Caribbean-based telecoms firm founded by Irish businessman Dennis O'Brien, is cutting its staff complement across several markets, including its home base in Jamaica. Digicel explains that its decentralization plan would impact some roles at the group level, as well as in markets, namely Cayman, El Salvador, Haiti, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Trinidad, and the United States. The company has started a consultation period with staff that is expected to take up to 45 days. Digicel reports that it spent the last number of months carefully reviewing its organization to structure and redesign its business to be fit for growth. Digicel employs 980 staff and 5,000 overall, with a spokeswoman for the company telling the Irish Times that 1.5% of the roles would be impacted. This would indicate 75 redundancies across the business. The mostly positive results from corporate entities continues as financial results are released to the public for review. Berita Investments Limited unaudited financials for the first quarter ended December 31, 2024 reports a 15% increase in its first quarter net profit. ISP Finance Services Limited unaudited financials for the 12 months ended December 31, 2024 reports a 15% decrease in year-end net profit. Cygnus Credit Investments Limited unaudited financials for the 6 months ended December 31, 2024 reports 6 months net profit of US $5.13 million. Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited unaudited financials for the year ended December 31, 2024 reports 31% increase in year-end net profit. Denise Williams has more on the financial market.
For the trading period ending February 20, 2025, these were the mostly active traded stocks. Real estate and media firm Kentire Holdings Jamaica Limited with 2,084,865 units traded, representing 16.36% of the market sales volume. Toll road operator Trans-Jamaica Highway Limited with 1,929,418 units traded, representing 15.14% of market sales volume. Advertising agency One Great Studio Company Limited with 1,221,713 units traded, representing 9.58% of market sales volume. We now shift our focus to the Forex market rate set by the Bank of Jamaica. On February 20, 2025, the Bank of Jamaica reported US $50.17 million purchased and US $67.93 million sold by Forex traders. Forex traders earned $1.20 per transaction, selling the US at $158.18 and buying the US at $156.98. The Canadian dollar netted Forex traders $3.06 per transaction, with selling at $113.37 and buying at $110.31. The British pound yielded Forex traders $1.95 in profits, with selling at $198.72 and buying at $196.77.
In our credit tip of the day, investing effort into your credit health is one of the smartest moves you can make. It's not just about numbers. It's about opening doors to opportunities that build wealth and secure your future. Let's look at how we can make positive changes. First, greater confidence. Knowing you've managed your finances well builds personal and professional confidence. Or enhanced savings. Lower borrowing costs mean more money stays in your pocket. Another benefit is increased financial security. A healthy credit score can act as a safety net during economic uncertainties. In regional news, Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit is calling for the reinstatement of LIAT, stressing its importance for the public good of the region. He made the statement while attending the 48th Caricom Heads of Government meeting. Crystal Hoyt has the story.
Prime Minister of Dominica Roosevelt Skerrit wants to see LIAT returned as the preeminent Caribbean carrier with Caricom's support.
Have to go back to the point of having a LIAT with better governance structures, better strategy, and better resource. Let us as shareholder governments approve this and put this in the hands of people who know how to run an airline.
The regional leader emphasizes that an airline connecting the Caribbean is not just practical, but essential for development.
The point is, regional travel is a public good. And for a private entity to survive would be very difficult without government support. and government concessions because of the sheer number of destinations, the sheer number of stops, and there are times that in order to enhance economic opportunities for certain countries, you must fly in there. Take, for example, Nevis. Without a LIAT or an arrangement where government plays a part, you may not have an airline flying into Nevis. But Nevis is an important part of the Caribbean community, obviously, being part of St. Kitts and Nevis.
He says all obstacles to regional travel should be addressed.
I think the observation which air travelers and citizens of the region have pointed to us is the high taxes at the airports. And so I believe that we need to revisit those taxes and to see whether they are a hindrance to regional travel and, of course, a contributor to the high cost. Because I agree with them that sometimes the taxes are higher than the ticket itself, the fare itself.
Prime Minister Skerrit is not only focused on ensuring adequate regional transportation, but also on making travel less expensive. Crystal Hoyt, CBC News.
Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown is reaffirming his commitment to LIAT's future. Speaking at the Caricom summit, he emphasized that LIAT 2020 will remain a key regional carrier despite new airline entrants. While acknowledging the challenges, he says plans are in place for expansion. Mr. Brown also underscored the need for improved sea transportation to boost regional connectivity.
Up to today, Antigua and Barbuda would have recommended that perhaps the proceeds from the EPA, the European Economic Partnership Agreement, that we should utilize the proceeds not necessarily for national initiatives, but to look at the common areas of need within Caricom, to include transportation and renewable energy, and to utilize those proceeds to assist us to achieve, let's say, improvements in those areas which hitherto have proven to be extremely difficult. Currently, they have about 4 planes operational. There's another 2 to come on stream shortly, so they'll get up to 6. And then a 7th aircraft should be added later this year, because we expect to pursue extra-regional flights, probably to Panama and maybe into Miami as well when we resume the Category 1 status within the OECS.
Caricom leaders are in Barbados for their 48th summit, focusing on regional unity, free movement, and economic resilience. Prime Minister Mia Mottley is calling for action, while European and United Nations leaders highlight energy partnerships and the Haiti crisis. This marks the final summit for Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley.
Head of the Caribbean Community and Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, called on regional leaders to act on several key issues. Among them was the free movement of the Caricom people within the region and the improvement of living standards. Prime Minister Mottley said there was a pressing issue that needs to be addressed at this Heads of Government meeting.
Whether it is a cess at the imports, whether it is an issue of a small fee for all border passings, people coming in and out of our borders, or whether it is the assignment of renewable energy licenses to Caricom and our regional institutions, the time is upon us for settling the independent funding of this Caribbean community.
President of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, called on the Caribbean community to work with Europe.
This is a central goal of Europe's Global Gateway Investment Programme. And today we are launching a new energy transition partnership to produce clean energy and clean hydrogen in the Caribbean. But we are also working on local clean tech value chains.
Meanwhile, Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, reiterated his call for the continuing crisis in Haiti to be addressed.
Particularly to address the appalling situation in Haiti, where gangs are inflicting intolerable suffering on a desperate and frightened people. Caricom and the Eminent Persons Group have provided invaluable support. We must keep working for a political process owned and led by the Haitians that restores democratic institutions through elections.
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, is in Barbados, attending his final Heads of Government meeting before he retires. Terry-Ann Brown-Campbell, TTT News.
In sports, we start with athletics. There will be excitement on the tracks at the National Stadium with this year's staging of the Gibson McCook Relays. Over 2,500 athletes representing clubs and schools in senior and junior events will compete at the event, which has received Tier 2 status from the international governing body, World Athletics. Class 1 4x100 meters record holders Calabar High set to sizzle at this weekend's meet, but while they're arguably the overwhelming favorites to take the title, they should be wary of Herbert Morrison Technical and Jamaica College. The meet begins at 9:30 a.m. Let's pass the baton to football now. Jamaica's under-20 women's team beat St. Vincent and the Grenadines 7-0 in their opening CONCACAF Women's Under-20 qualifying game played at the National Stadium in Nicaragua on Thursday. Also, hosts Nicaragua drubbed St. Kitts and Nevis 8-0 in their other game, played on Thursday as well. Onto the pitch with cricket. West Indies cricket faces a growing threat from lucrative franchise leagues and warns newly appointed CEO Chris Derring. He says more Caribbean players are prioritizing franchise cricket over national duty, which could hurt the region's international standing. Speaking on Barbadian radio program Mason and Guest, Derring called for a collective effort to balance private investment in leagues with the needs of West Indies cricket.
I do know one thing. Those leagues are not going to go away. And it represents a threat, but threats also represent an opportunity. And if you see the model of how football has evolved into, remember the model that exists today in football wasn't around 50, 60 years ago. It has an evolved model where you have private investment coming into the sport, doing all that development work, and basically the English FA, has to simply just pick the players off at the end. I'm not saying that we're there or that we're going to get there, but I'm just saying clearly there are models that exist where it works. So I don't want to discourage private investment. The strength of that is that it creates this vacuum, that attractiveness that should encourage more and more kids to start playing cricket, to get into the cricket pipeline, to then take advantage of cricket as a career opportunity. Now, the threat for West Indies, obviously, is if it becomes so important that simply playing for money commercially, and they no longer need the West Indies for that exposure before they can get those kind of contracts, then we have a major problem. But world cricket has to solve that, or has to help us solve that. Because it is seriously under discussion whether or not ICC should try and own the international calendar, create windows for that only international cricket can be played, etc. Mm-hmm. It took a while to get there because, as you know, the commercial interests, if they're very strong, they can simply ignore the ICC. But I think it's an evolving process. We have to be part of that discussion, knowing our particular vulnerability, because we simply don't have the commercial resources to retain players and pay players the way an India or in England might be able to. But I will tell you, even England with their resources are coming under pressure. So, the discussion is taking place globally, I can tell you. And we have to collectively, cricket has to solve this problem because private money in cricket is not going to go away.
And that's it for the weekend news. Have a pleasant weekend.